I'll just read this off, huh?
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
My Grandma Susie. I'm fortunate and lucky to know my grandma. She had 4 children, Mamie, Katie, David, and Louise. She never had an English name. Her Indian name was Kubade, which means biting on something hard or crunching on whatever she was eating. So her uncles and named her that, and it stuck with her. And she says, I knew her ever since I could remember. I don't know where she was born, but I figure it must have been around somewhere near Susanville, California, that area. Her people roamed to different places. They stayed in Susanville during the summer, and in the springtime, they came to Pyramid Lake to fish, and then they'd wander back to Susanville during the summer. And the men worked in the fields, and they stayed there. And later on, she married a man named Ben Rowe, who was from Likely, California. And then after that, they moved to Reno. My grandma did willow work and made basket tops and baby cradle boards. And that's where my mother grew up, at the Reno colony when she was a little girl. And then after that, she went to Stewart and went to school in Stewart when she was around 7 or 8 years old. And she stayed there. She stayed there until the 9th grade. That's what she said. And after that, she married, and she had 4 children. And then later on, she married again, and she married my dad, who was from Nixon. His name was Harrison Frazier. And in 1921, they moved here. She moved here. She was a city girl, but she had to get used to the country life. So she lived out here with my dad. And they had 5 children, 3 boys and 2 girls. And I was one of the girls. And I lived in Nixon all my life. I went to school here, and then I went to high school in Fernley, graduated, and then a couple years later I got married, and I married a man from Stillwater. He's a Fallon Indian, Fallon Reservation. His name was Albert Hicks Jr., but everyone knew him as Cy. That's a nickname that his brothers gave him for some reason, I don't know, but they named him Cy. And that stuck with him. So we were married. We got married over there in Fallon. And then we stayed there for 13 years, and we were into cattle ranching business, and we had cattle, and in the meantime we had 7 children, 3 boys and 4 girls, and so it was getting kind of crowded there. All the family was raising their cattle on the same ranch in the same area, so it was getting kind of crowded. So we decided we'll move to Nixon, where I have rights to the range, since we had cattle. So we moved here in 1979, somewhere along there, and then we've been here ever since. And my kids went to school in here. The younger ones and the older ones, they went to school in Fernley. And they all graduated out of high school there. They went on to school. But in the meantime, we got them into cattle business, so they raised their own cows, and they put themselves through school like that. They had their own cattle. And then after they got out of high school and went out of college, and some of them got married and they had children. So right now I have 13 grandchildren and 4 great-grandchildren. And I really enjoy my grandchildren, trying to teach them stuff, trying to teach them how to do. I do buckskin work, which I learned from my mother, and I teach my little grandchildren, girls, how to bead. But my mother, she did all that too when we lived here. She's the one got us interested in making craft and how to bead and all that. My girls know how to do all that. And she was with us a long time. We had her she passed away in 1991 when she was 101 years old, and she was still working. For the high school, she teached culture, heritage and culture to the high school students at Pyramid Lake High School. And she was still doing that when she passed on. But she did a lot. She did a lot here and accomplished a lot of things here on the reservation.